Everybody, we're live here on Drum Talk TV. Only if you're watching live, otherwise we're on the archive. Dan Shinder here in Globe, Arizona, along with Dr. Nadia Azar, somewhere in Canada. Can I say where you are? Because
You can
last
say
time
where I
you
am.
got like your house got rushed by a bunch of groupies.
It's all right. We've got security now. It's good.
Okay, she's in Windsor, Canada, because she's a professor at the University of Windsor, a professor of kinesiology, and we're here to talk about drumming-related injuries, which includes, just like it says in the post, carpal tunnel, arthritis, tendonitis, bad neck, shoulder arches, hips, sciatica, anything relating to stuff that you're overworking and maybe not working properly for many reasons that we'll get into. So chime in. Tell us where you're watching from. I'm watching comments over here. I'll give shout outs and most importantly, relay your questions and comments to Dr. Nadia if you have any of these ailments. And this is brought to you by the MetaFlex Therapy Glove. I'm wearing mine right now, not just for display, but as I was telling Nadia earlier, I was playing with one of the dogs a couple days ago and she got a little, sheeping the dog, not Nadia, got a little rough with the tug of war rope and my hand got all twisted up. So I have this on. It's a compression glove. You can tighten these straps for more resistance. It's great for hand strengthening and circulation. But right now, it's helping it stay immobile so I don't accidentally just get too crazy with it. So there you go. Metaflex. Link is in the post. Check it out after the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
Besides your hand.
Yeah, besides my hand. And I played last night without even like thinking about it. And well, yeah, because I taught a lesson, so it went for like an hour and a half, and I didn't even think about it until today. My hand was like sore. I'm like, man, it's back. What's up with that? Oh, yeah. So you got to be careful, right? I mean, part of healing
hmm
is making sure when you have a drumming related injury, there's a dog playing related injury. But if you have some sort of injury caused by something else and you jump right back into your regular routine, you can aggravate it, whether it was initially caused from drumming or not. So is there a way to measure the ratio or length of healing and backing off of your routine relevant to the depth of the injury? You know what I'm trying to ask.
hmm
I'm all talked
Yeah,
out
like
today
how do you
already.
know? How do you know when you're okay to continue playing, basically?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, everybody heals at a different pace. And I mean, there's like general timelines for different injuries, but some take a little longer than others. A more severe injury obviously is going to take longer. If you do things that re-aggravate it, that can cause some additional damage or set back your recovery a little bit. So when you're coming back from an injury, and most physiotherapists, at least in my experience, they talk about, playing or just go to the point of pain. So if
Mm,
you start playing, say you have an injury, you got some tendonitis and you take a day or, a couple of days to rest and let it settle in. When you're injured, it's very rare that you have to like completely stop playing for long periods of time. Certain exceptions, obviously broken bones, things like that. But you generally you want to keep moving. You want the tissue to be used so that it heals in a way that it's going to get, be used to moving again, kind of thing.
hmm
But they will say, play up to the point where it hurts and don't push any farther. So, you might get back to playing. You start with 5 minutes. Did it hurt after that? No. Okay. Next time, go 10 minutes. Did it hurt after 10 minutes? Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Back it down to 7 minutes. And so you kind of like gauge it. You don't, if it starts to hurt, pain is a signal from your body. It's really not actually something you want to get rid of completely because it's your body telling you, hello, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
And especially in the injury healing phase too, like the initial pain is saying, hey, a tissue's been hurt or damaged. And in the healing phase, pain is telling you, you know what, I'm not ready for this yet. You took it too far and you got to back it off. So if you play up to the point where it starts to hurt, that's where you know your limit is. And every day or every couple of days, you can kind of try to push it a little bit further, but never to the point where now you've like really hurt yourself again,
Yeah. And I'm
So
glad
you got
you
to kind of gauge it.
mentioned, yeah, the time steps, because before you said that, I was thinking to myself, I'm sure most musicians are like me, whether they play drums, guitar, piano, sax, whatever, that if you were to just dive in and start playing, you pay less attention. You have to really work to be cognizant of, is there pain? Because your brain gets lost in the art of playing, and the endorphins get going and you're paying attention to the music and it's like, oh yeah, I'm hurt. Maybe I should check that, So doing what you said in those time steps is a way to avoid making that mistake and then just accidentally playing for an hour and going, well, I might have pushed it way too far. This really hurts more than it did before, so that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really important because you don't want to set yourself back, right? Like,
right. It'll take longer to heal too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just going to delay your ability to play to the skill level that you want to be. It could impact your ability to get through an entire gig or something like that, or a recording session. You don't want that, right? So you really do want to try to, when you're coming back, you do want to try to come back in steps so that you don't, like you say, overdo it and then actually end up setting yourself back.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Let's see if anyone has any questions, comments, suggestions, donations. We'll take it all. And while I'm looking this up, for those who don't know, Dr. Nadia has done some very extensive studies in drumming related injuries, which are often from repetitive motion, but sometimes just bad ergonomics for your body type and your setup. And we'll get into that like we always do, because different people are always watching all the time. So some of you are going to hear this over and over as friendly, gentle reminders, sometimes not as gentle or friendly if you keep making the same mistake and telling us that over and over. But from your studies, why don't you give everyone an overview of 1, 2, or 3 of the most common injuries that were cited in those surveys and things that we were doing a few years ago?
Yeah. So the two that came out, so the survey, for those who are watching that don't know, it was an online survey that asked drummers about their experiences with these playing related musculoskeletal disorders. So these injuries that come up directly from playing the drums, and are like repetitive strain type injuries. And so I asked them about their experiences, what diagnoses had they had from medical professionals and that sort of thing. And the two that came up the most often were tendonitis and carpal tunnel syndrome. So those were the two that overwhelmingly were reported the most frequently. There were several others as well, but those were the two that were sort of the most prominent.
Do you have a percentage? Do you recall a percentage of how many people had both of those together? And is that common at all?
I didn't look at that. I didn't look to see if, like in terms of specific diagnoses, if they had more than one, or if they were like certain ones were co-occurring more commonly. Definitely a large proportion of the people who responded to the survey reported that they had had more than one of these throughout their lifetime of playing the drums. But
excuse me, that's a lot. If you think about it, that's a high.
Yeah.
It's like if you drum, you're going to get hurt.
It was
right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to say that, but it was a high proportion.
To a degree, like sports, you're just way increasing your risk than if you're just walking around.
Yeah, exactly. So there was about 830 drummers who filled out the survey. 59% of them said they'd had more than one of these injuries throughout their playing career, and 68% said they'd had at least one.
I forgot about those numbers. Those are really high.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, they're high. And they also correspond, like there aren't too many other studies who have looked at this specifically in percussionists or drummers, but the two that have, that focus specifically on those groups, our numbers are very close in that ballpark. And in fact, mine were even a little bit lower than theirs. So we're in the, 68 to 74% of these groups reporting injuries.
Is there here's a two-pathed question. Is there a common cause in drumming to tendonitis versus carpal tunnel, or is there a common denominator? And is it often related to sticking
Mhm.
technique or positioning or anything like that? Or just playing a lot and you're more prone to get it?
Yeah. So what I should qualify that tendonitis was not specifically wrist tendonitis. It was
Okay.
just tendonitis. So that could have been now, most of the people who reported injuries said it happened in the arm, somewhere from fingers to
To
shoulder,
shoulder.
basically.
Yeah.
So that tendonitis could have been the tennis elbow tendonitis. It could have been shoulder tendonitis or wrist tendonitis as well,
Okay.
or the de Quervain's tenosynovitis, which is along the side of your thumb. So it could have been any one of those. So it's hard to say, that whether there were common features between the two. But I mean, tendonitis is, I think, the big risk factors for tendonitis are when you have forceful movements. So a lot of muscle tension, a lot of high force going through the tendons, and doing that repetitively.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you think about playing drums, both of those things, high force, especially if you're really crashing hard, high force, high velocity movements, and it's repetitive. And as far as carpal tunnel goes, carpal tunnel is where you get a narrowing of the space where the median nerve passes through from your forearm into your hand. And the median nerve feeds your thumb and index finger and this side of your middle finger. And so
That's my
anything
favorite
that's going to
finger, by the
limit
way.
so anything that limits the amount of space in there, so that could be swollen tendons, that could be, swollen tendon is usually the biggest one, but even narrowing, like when you move your wrist, you do narrow the carpal tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And so repetitively doing that can create friction, can irritate the nerve, can irritate the tendons, which then swell and then put pressure on the nerve. So there are a whole host of things that can go into that, and create those symptoms. The tricky thing with carpal tunnel syndrome too, and this is why it's important to get an assessment, not just from your physician, but from like a chiropractor or a physiotherapist, is the symptoms of carpal tunnel syndrome can be created by issues not just in the wrist, but all the way up the chain. Because the nerves that feed your fingers are coming out of like up in your neck. And so if they're passing through tight spaces between muscles and fascia and all kinds of stuff, they can get pinched. And so that can start creating some symptoms further down the chain. So you might be feeling tingling in your hand, but it might not actually be because of something here. It could be from something
Right.
up here or up here that's causing the problem.
Could it be from playing too rigid and therefore there's more vibration going through the tissue and whatnot and causing that? Like I've seen some people, typically less, bless their hearts, less experienced drummers who haven't gotten this down yet using all the hinges. They're playing very rigid, and I imagine that the vibration is going through the stick more and they've got more of a grip on the stick, so now the vibration's going there, and if they're not limber here, it's just traveling up. And could that affect that as well?
Yeah, so vibration has been linked with onset of carpal tunnel syndrome. And one of the things that they, like in industrial settings, that they tell people to watch out for is usually that in that case, it's like a vibrating tool, like an impact wrench or a jackhammer or something.
Oh.
But they tell them to watch how hard they're gripping the tool, because that stronger grip force, it increases the contact with the vibrating tool, but also with the muscle activation, that can transmit more than having a nice looser grip on it, obviously still within safety ranges.
Yeah.
But yeah, so over gripping the sticks, tightening up those muscles can certainly lead to some of that vibration transmission, but also excess muscle tension is not good for your, like that can lead to other problems even if there wasn't vibration involved. Because again, you're putting a lot of stress on force on the tendons, your muscles are fatiguing, which means they can't hold proper positions. Like they start to have to work harder to be able to do the same things. And so that just leads to even more force. And, it leads to, it can make you fatigue and then lead to problems.
I was going to say, probably lead to muscle fatigue. And is there such thing as nerve fatigue or cartilage fatigue or anything like that?
Not in the same sense as muscle fatigue, because that's more of a, how can I explain this? Because those other tissues, like cartilage is a passive tissue. Like it doesn't create motion. It helps control motion because it's like the surface between your bones that kind of helps your joints, your muscles, or
It's
not
like
your
an
muscles, sorry,
engine
your bones
mount,
glide.
basically, right?
More like, well, yeah, I guess almost like not quite the ball bearing, but kind of like it helps things like move smoothly.
Got it.
So when we talk about something like cartilage fatiguing, it's more that it's like wearing down. It's more like wear and tear. Whereas with muscles fatiguing, it's more that it is related to, because nerves control muscles. And so you're depleted of certain chemicals that are needed to create muscle contraction. There's not enough energy in the muscles to be able to get it to do what it needs to do, things like that. So it's a different kind of fatigue.
Great. I'd love to hear from some folks. We got some people on board watching. Hey, Bill Overton, thanks for watching and tagging someone to hopefully check out the show. Maybe they're watching but not saying anything. But go ahead and chime in, folks. Let us know where you're watching from, and let us know if you're affected by any of these things that you see listed in the post. Tendonitis, carpal tunnel, arthritis, bursitis, just hip pain, sciatica, lower back pain, neck pain. There's so many things that can occur from drumming. And one of the things that we often talk about on this show is setups of drum kits that are set up more for show than economizing your movement and for ergonomics, causing you to reach a lot farther for things. And when you're playing fast, that's causing a lot of motion that maybe is putting a lot of extra wear on your muscles and your joints and your nerves. I see that a lot. And I've mentioned this before to you. I think of you every time I play, and there's that one small china that's the highest cymbal over there, but I don't play it that much. Whereas there's some guys and girls that have their crash cymbals like way up here. And that's a lot to reach for. Jonathan Moffett Jr. is a friend of mine. He's a great drummer, great guy, great spirit. He played with Michael Jackson. He's done a million other things as well. And I keep seeing the videos of him. Maybe you've seen them where he's set up in like a green screen room. And lately, actually, I think at home in his studio. And he's got cymbals here, and cymbals here. And he's going, poksh, poksh. And I'm going, I can't even watch that anymore after doing this show for 3 years. And he's got to be, I'm going to guess, at least 10 years older than I am. And he's got to be at least 70. And to just see him do that, it looks so uncomfortable and like something's about to rip. Have you seen that?
I haven't. I'll have to look for that next time I see a video of him playing. I haven't noticed that. And that's one thing that, you hear things like that a lot. Like, well, Jonathan Moffett has his cymbals back here. And, who's the other one we were just talking about? I can't think of his name. Really famous drummer.
But talking about this episode or previous?
No, not you and I. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. It's ridiculous. But they talk about like the posture of these, really high profile drummers. Well, they played like this, or they played like that. And it's like, yeah, but that is not necessarily like that characteristic isn't what makes them great. They're great in spite of the fact that they do that. So it's not necessarily something to emulate.
Especially if their body type is totally different, and there's all of that too.
It could be, and it could just be that they've gotten lucky so far that that he's never had a shoulder issue despite him reaching back like that.
Or they have, and we just don't know about it.
Or they have, and we just don't know about it. Like not everybody talks about these things, right?
Yeah.
So, you shouldn't assume that just because you're seeing someone else do it, that it's necessarily the right thing for them, let alone you. You might not know what they're going through. In general, you want to keep the stuff that you use the most often in nice and close within what's called your reach envelope. So basically where you can reach it without really even having to reach, for that matter.
Right.
And then stuff you use less often can be out further. And like you're talking about that one china, if it's something that you're hitting 2 or 3 times in a night, like in a show, and it's way out here, that's not so bad. That's not doing it often enough that it's probably not going to cause a problem.
Cool.
But yeah.
Cool. Courtney, what an interesting way to spell your name. Courtney is in Arizona. Where in Arizona are you? I'm curious. And a question I have for Nadia, and ask questions, folks. There's so much you can get out of this. Just don't be shy. Participate. Um, Back in 2019, when you were working at the Drum Talk TV booth at the NAMM show, and you interviewed both Carmine and Vinny, and they both had the same shoulder surgery, if I remember correctly, right? And do you
Yeah.
remember what the common cause was? Was it simply the setup? Is it genetic? Is it from lifting too many beers too quickly? What's the deal?
So, I mean, given the fact that they're brothers, there could be a genetic component there. But they both, I remember this because I interviewed them, I think, on back-to-back days.
Yeah.
And the stories were, and Vinny actually was telling me about Carmine before I interviewed him. But he had said, for both of them, it was this thing about having their cymbals out so far and having these huge movements.
Yeah.
And, it creating these shoulder problems that Vinny was able to like finish whatever tour it was that he was doing. And then, he's made it through, got the surgery. And then he said, like, he started bringing stuff in closer so that it wouldn't happen again. And he talked about Carmine's, though, where he actually blew the shoulder out on stage during a show.
Yeah, I think he was playing with Leslie West, I think. I think that's when it was. But yeah, he was playing and he played through it.
Yeah.
Which
and
couldn't have helped. That I could just imagine,
But imagine the pain of that. So, yeah. So, but they had both, even when I interviewed Carmine, he said the same thing. Like after that, he brought everything but in nice and close so we wouldn't have to reach and strain to get to those items.
Yeah. So you got to be careful, folks. Be mindful of how your set is set up. Don't set it up just to look cool. Set it up for the playing. It'll always look cool. I've never seen a drum set that doesn't look cool. I mean, come on now.
Right?
Yeah. Cool.
It's true.
Now, have you been playing while you're on sabbatical?
No,
No,
I haven't.
Okay.
No, although we are in the process of clearing out our basement and getting it all shiny and new. It's not finished, but we just set up
That's right. I think I grilled you about that last episode.
Yeah, you did. So yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
Now, when you do that, will you and Dory play together? Well,
we only have one drum set at home.
Oh, so
why do I keep? We wouldn't be able to play. Yeah, I mean, because I have one at the lab. But that one has to stay there. Yeah. So we don't have two at home, so we wouldn't be able to play together. But I do have permission to use his drums.
Get some drums.
I know. That might help.
It really is great exercise. For those who don't know, 4 years ago this July, I was diagnosed with diabetes, and drumming's been a huge help for that because it's cardio, it's physical, and that's a huge part of naturally staving off diabetes. I don't take insulin, I don't take metformin, I don't take any, and my doctor's very on board with that. I saw him this morning actually, and he always asks, so you're still drumming almost every day or every day? How's your numbers? He's like so on top of it. I love that I know I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing something that's fun. So for any of you, if you're drummers and you have diabetes, play. If you have diabetes or you're pre-diabetic, I've never understood that. I think that's everyone else who doesn't have it. But, go ahead and take up the drums, or at least get a tread. We have a treadmill, an elliptical, and I have 3 drum sets and 2 dogs. So I get a lot of, and I'm going to be 60 in a couple weeks as we're recording this. And I don't feel like I imagined a 60-year-old to be like when I was half my age, when I was 30. I thought 60 is like, yeah, you're starting to, but I don't feel like that at all. I feel great other than a twisted hand from playing with the dog and, little things bumping my head, or maybe Enja, my wife, is bumping my head, I think, actually. But, a little case of tendonitis in both my ears. Wait, that's tinnitus.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, but folks, we'd love to hear from you. How do you not have questions about this stuff? Here we have a doctor, a professor of kinesiology right here to answer your questions. If you've never had any of these things and you play somewhat regularly, chime in because it'd be very
Hmm.
helpful to others to learn how have you avoided that. And I
Definitely.
think that probably, I'm guessing from what I've learned from our own show, the most common way to avoid it is having a very ergonomically correct setup so that you're not reaching. And if you have a 4-piece jazz kit, that's a little easier than my whatever it is 14-piece big progressive kit, but I don't have a lot of stuff far away. And I'm short, I'm like
Hmm.
5'7", my arms aren't that long, and then I got this stick length. So I just make it work so it's easy. It's just so easy. I don't ever feel like
Yeah.
I'm straining, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Setting up your drum set so that you don't have to strain to reach the stuff that you use the most often, hugely important. In terms of forces, only hitting as hard as you need to get the dynamics that you're looking for. And I actually just learned this recently. I didn't know this, but some people that I've spoken to through research and stuff have said things like cymbals are designed, they only have like a certain range or volume that they can get to. I hope I'm using the right
Yeah.
terms,
No
but
matter how
and then
hard you
after,
hit
like,
it.
no matter how hard you hit it after that, you're not
Yeah.
going to get any more out of it.
Yeah.
So, and it actually can start sounding like yucky after that, apparently.
Yeah.
So, not hitting stuff any harder than you really need to get what you're trying to achieve. And then another really important one, because especially when it comes to repetition, like you can't take repetition out of drumming, like repetitive movements.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, what you have to do to help manage that is make sure you're getting breaks from it often enough. So, the Performing Arts Medicine Association recommends taking a 10-minute break for every 30 minutes of playing. And that's not just for drummers, that's for instrumentalists across the
Oh,
board.
really?
Taking a 10-minute break for every 30 minutes of playing. Yep.
Interesting.
And, even things like making sure, you get one day a week where you're actually not even playing the drums, like completely off doing other things.
Yeah.
Athletes do this, they don't train every single
And
day.
they
They
don't train
build
the same
rest.
muscle groups either.
Ooh, I think we froze.
Oh, I'm still here. Are you here? Now you froze, darn it.
Oh.